Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So I thought I'd go through the Q&A, and there'll be a link in the description to the Exilecon livestream day 2 with the timestamp where this is. I thought I'd go through the Q&A and just do a breakdown of the key facts so that instead of you having to watch through and decipher it, you just get like a full list of everything that we so far know about PoE 2 and I guess some of the things that we know of how that will react to or relate back to PoE 1, and then I guess, yeah, we can go from there. Anyway, let's go down the list. So, one thing that we know for sure at this stage is that in relation to the use of gold, it's not intended to be the de facto trading currency. And it will be tradable with other players, which is really good. I like the idea of gold in the game based on how I sort of got to use it in the playthrough. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, will simpler style builds be playable? Now, according to the Q&A session, there will be the opportunity to play simpler playstyles. This could have an impact on damage, though, you know, they're not intending that you need to use all 9 skills all the time. It's more like a situational thing. So, like, skills that hit heavier could be used to nuke bosses and stuff like that. There'll also be a number of ways to automate skills, so trigger skills and things like that. So they've got a lot of cast-on skills that are going into the game. And you can have multiple active skills on cast-on skills. And then you can have 6-link multiple cast-on skills as well, so you could have multiple trigger skills. And then the gem order will dictate the order of which the spells are triggered on a cast-on situation. So like if you had a totem, for example, or a cast-on crit or something like that, and you had like 4 different skill gems in there, then potentially, you know, you just go down the sequence. So you could actually sequence skills triggering one after the other, and that would apply different damage effects and elements and things like that. Penetration, there'll be a lot more penetration accessibility in the skill tree. There will be no negative penetration, so it will be capped at 0. Trading, there's no intention to trade there to change their philosophy around trade. Any other changes to be made will be quality of life, and they're also saying that PoE 1 will also receive the same changes as well. Okay, mapping and PoE. There still will be itemized mapping and crafting of those maps. It might be harder to re-roll maps though, based on the changes that they're making, get rid of scours and things like that. And they're also reviewing the map mods as well in this respect, because they do intend for you to eventually play mods that you may or may not want to play, but they're hopefully going to tune that so it's not like 100% reflect maps and stuff like that. Okay, ballistic systems and off-screen, which is a big problem, getting clapped by enemies on the outside of the screen. Projectiles are now adhering to gravity, so they drop off the further they go. Which means there's a less probability of being off-screen. They're also working to remove the off-screening effects that we could see in PoE 1, which is really good. Dodge roll will also avoid those projectiles as well if you can see them coming in time. Backporting changes to PoE 1 from PoE 2. So it's difficult to do because of the changes affect overall balance in either game. It's unlikely, for example, that we'll get things like Spirit in PoE 1, according to the devs. PoE 1 will PoE 1 be upgraded to the new PoE 2 engine? They have went yes, because the engines are using shared infrastructure, so they both have to be upgraded at the same time. Also, microtransactions will be made available across both games simultaneously, so that when they design them, the MTXs and whatnot, they have to be designed for the same game, or at the same time for both games. So new content for PoE 1 will use the new features of PoE 2, basically. There'll be no Scion class in PoE 2, so as what they've basically stated is there was no real place for the Scion in PoE 2. Every class is unique in the nature and the way that it operates, whereas the Scion was very generic. Based on that, the Scion passive tree in the center of the skill tree will no longer be in PoE 2. There are less nodes required to go around the skill tree. Yeah, so in compensating for the fact that you can no longer travel through the center of the tree for certain builds, there's less nodes to actually travel around the outside of the tree to reach the areas that you want to reach. Okay, will fossils and essences be in PoE 2? Answer is they are confirming that they will be. Their function will change according to what they're stating. The crafting systems might also be more targeted to the specific items or gear moving forward. So, i.e., fossils might only apply to chest pieces, and essences might only apply to helms or something of that sort of nature. You're also looking at holding less options within each crafting system to make it easier to hit the rolls that you want to roll. Cast on dodge, they're talking about that as a bit of a joke, but they may actually add that into the game. Will chase uniques be in PoE 2? Yes. Mage Blood, Headhunter, etc. will all be in PoE 2, but they'll be changed for PoE 2's mechanics. Group play changes in PoE 2. They'll still be very much the same as PoE 1. They're still in the design phase, but they're basically not sort of looking at changing anything significantly here. One of the ones that we always sort of bring up is leveling through the campaign. It will be the same as PoE 1, so there won't be like in D4 where it's got like go out in the open map and just clap enemies until you level up. You'll still need to push through the campaign to level up. Damage Reflect in PoE 2. The map mods are still in the game. None of the new bosses have Reflect on them though. And they're moving away from these mods being able to kill yourself by just sort of tapping enemies and whatnot. So even the devs calling Reflect deaths and whatnot bullshit, so that's good. They're aware that this is an issue, so they're looking at it. PoE 2 will no longer have a crafting bench. To compensate for that, they're using vendors. And so we'll have more accessibility to crafts and mods and stuff like that through vendors as well as gear. So that vendors are getting a lot more buffed up. They pretty much acknowledged that vendors were only the purveyors of selling our trash to in PoE 1. So they're looking to adjust that moving forward so that you actually get more out of vendors. Changes to Leaf and Recovery. There still is the complete ability, pardon me, I'm a little sick at the moment. There's still the complete ability to have a high regen character, but it will come at a cost. Leech has also been a very big area of discussion with the dev team as well because they're not quite sure how to deal with it yet, but it will still make its way into PoE 2. Now the other change is they've added wells into the game to recharge your flasks and whatnot. Their answer to why is they just thought it'd be a cool mechanic. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Death recap. So not at this stage. They're not looking at putting it in. Basically, I've said it's hard to implement, not a priority, but they do acknowledge the issue of random deaths. And one of the things they noted is they're looking at making it more visibly clear as to how you've died as well. Now, Druid forms in PoE 2. So far, just the Wolf and Bear is all they have, but that may change over time. Pardon me. Do rare drops drop with good rolls now? There's a higher chance of getting better rare drops, so less vendor trash. Rarity will affect things a lot more than what it used to, and they're moving away from using quant, so they're nerfing quant. High tier currency, so when you fight bosses, they remove the penalty that was in PoE 1 about high tier currency drops. So the actual easiest way to get high tier currency now is by killing bosses, which is awesome. Light radius, this now extends the minimap view range, which is really cool. How long does a PoE campaign take to beat? They've got no idea at this stage, so that's something that we'll find out when we get to the beta. Now, in the conversation of porting over league content from PoE 1 to PoE 2, ultimately they're not looking at putting anything into PoE 2 that looks bad. There's a lot of balances to be made case by case, but they will be maintaining the existing mechanics core and just prettying the face of it up. So it looks like if they put Delve or Legion or whatever, it's just going to make its way over, but it's going to be redesigned just in the visual department at this stage, and obviously balanced into the new mechanics. PoE 2 will remain free to play. That's a no-brainer. Will PoE 2 be slower? Pardon me. The goal is not to make it slower. They're looking at making boss fights more engaging, however. In their words, there is still ridiculous shit in the game, especially the end game. It'll be like 5% less crazy in the end game versus PoE 1, so it still will be crazy. So I hope that gives people confidence. Will they be porting forward old bosses like Shaper and Uber? Maybe. They're not entirely conclusive on that yet. Loot filters will still be in PoE 2. Div cards may still be in PoE 2. There'll be no skill gem vendors in PoE 2, so it'll be a lot easier to get skills with uncut gems moving forwards. The Druid Bear form can dodge roll. Not a huge thing, but I think it's cool anyway. All new classes have 3 ascendancies, so all classes will have 3 ascendancies. Vendor recipes will still be in the game, similar to PoE 1. Obviously, there'll be different recipes. Race Spectre is more like a Pokemon system. We have to capture the corpses into like a minion gem, which is actually pretty cool. It also means you don't need a Spectre Bank anymore, the way that you used to in PoE 1, so it'll be a little bit more intuitive. Will the campaign be the same for all? Oh, the campaign will be the same for all characters. There will be no variations to the campaign depending on your character, so it's the same as PoE 1. In the skill tree, masteries will be changing when compared to PoE 1. There will be more passives in the tree moving forwards, though. There are far fewer weapon-specific passives because of the multi sort of weapon system they're looking at implementing. Okay, brands are now being merged with totems moving forwards, and traps and mines have been merged as well. Ascendancies, these will be unlocked in Acts 2, 3, and 4 moving forwards, and we won't be doing labs at this stage for that. So they're confirming that no labs, and yeah, the ascendancies will be in the latter end of the campaign. Utility flasks will be more like a reactive sort of thing these days, or in PoE 2. So less piano flasking to have buff up times, though they are stating that there will be a guard flask, which will be taking the place of like, molten shell and stuff like that. Build respecking, similar to PoE 1, no changes. For Jeweler's Orbs, there'll be three tiers of Jeweler's Orbs, and this will increase the number of sockets in your gems. All gems that are cut, so they come from cut gems, will have 2 support sockets by default. There will be channeling skills in PoE 2. Jewels will still exist in PoE 2, the same as they exist in PoE 1. Quicksilver Flask will be removed from PoE 2, so they won't make their way into the game. Magic Find will actually be significantly beneficial in finding currency now, versus what it was before, which was Quant in PoE 1. Charges no longer give active stat bonuses, they give, I guess, power on effect use. And item drops in party play will be the same as PoE 1 at this stage. Okay, yeah, this is just a bit of a breakdown of all the, I guess, all the things that we know so far from the Q&A for PoE 2. As opposed to you guys having to go through a long-ass 1-hour session, this should sum it up in a very short amount of time. Anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. Don't forget to follow the Twitch and the Twitter, or now known as X. And until next time, stay filthy and have a good one.